I mean, it's just how
none of
do
that
you
was on the table, and I said I might have.
Okay, I see what she's trying to do here, and it's really, really bad.
I know.
Assalamu alaikum everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm Deeb.
I'm Shannon.
And today, me and Shannon are going to be reacting to Jordan Peterson calmly dismantles feminism in front of two feminists. Because we like to keep it controversial here. Yeah, so do you have anything to say at all before we get started?
No, not a lot. Just hop on over to my channel if you're into gaming or anything like that. So I'm going to be starting putting out some of that content. It's like just a little nerd hub, but that's about it really.
Yeah, that's fine. If you want, then drop your channel in the comment section. I'll make sure the comments pinned so everyone can see it. So yeah, if you're into gaming, toy collecting, anything like that, hop over to Shannon's channel. We're going to get that up and running. And yeah, so anything else?
Oh yeah, we're going to, obviously, I've been on a few of Tyler's videos before if anyone recognises me. But if there is anything anyone would want to see, like myself, like from Islamic perspective, as what like a Western white traditional gypsy background guy would be. So if you'd like to see my perspective, feel free to ask. So,
Let's get started.
One of our guests of the day, the other one today, is a man you may recognise, or maybe you don't. Jordan Peterson has achieved that rare feat, becoming a global superstar academic. So how did he become so well known? He first came to national prominence in Canada in 2016 in a debate about new laws on gender identity. Bill C-16 made it an offence to refuse to call someone by their chosen gender pronoun. Jordan Peterson argued that this would infringe free speech, while some supporters of the bill said he was advocating prejudice. From there, his YouTube star took off, and he has now over 1 million subscribers. And his videos, where he talks everything from identity politics, which we've touched on, to the Bible, to Disney movies, have been viewed over 150 million times. Gosh, that's about the same number of viewers we have on this programme. Last year, he supported ex-Google employee James Damore, who had been fired for suggesting men and women have different interests due to biological differences. And his latest book, 12 Rules for Life, has taken him on a global tour promoting his ideas.
We do, like not everything has to be different because one's men. I mean, Gordon Ramsay in cooking, for example, is obviously a sign of how they, the certain gender roles are just kind of BS.
yeah, it's, to be honest, it is completely out of control.
Well, let me ask you something then. How many, because you work in construction, how many female construction workers do you know?
Hardly any. It's not that. This is the thing, in the industries now, they employ people of different ethnicities, backgrounds, religions. They always like to have like a, do you know what I mean, one of each just to make it fair. As soon as you start doing that, you're not only putting people at risk in certain jobs like that, you're losing in productivity because you're not picking the best people for the job.
Exactly.
So yeah, it's pretty obvious, isn't it? But
yeah, so really, because obviously it doesn't matter what gender, religion, race you are. If you're good for the job, you're good for the job.
Well,
but you shouldn't be put into a job that you're not going to be good at purely because you add something to their diversity quota.
Yeah, but this is the problem with today, isn't it? That's unfortunately.
Yeah. Oh, anyway, let's get back to it.
Ideas, and just this week he sold out the 1,000-seater Emmanuel Centre around the corner here in Westminster. So Jordan, you've done endless interviews. You've been publicising your book, and they've generated plenty of heated debate.
No, actually sold out the Apollo. It had 5,000 seats.
All right, stop boasting. Do you think, though, because of the heat that has been generated, that your views have been misrepresented at times?
Oh, definitely, but that's, that's part and parcel of the process. I did take a very forceful stance, let's say, against some of the excesses of the radical left-wingers, and it's in their best interest to paint me as somehow a figure of the extreme right, because then I don't have to be contended with. But, I mean, it's easy for people's views to be oversimplified in a very large public debate.
I mean, in terms of some of the issues, I mean, you say you've been painted as an extreme right-winger.
No, some people have tried that. Not very successfully, but they've tried it.
And you came to prominence in part over your opposition to this law that we just talked about in Canada, proposing the use of preferred pronouns for transgender people. Just for clarity.
Mandating them.
Yeah.
Right.
Saying that you should do it.
No, that you had to do it.
Right, you had to do it by law. But just for clarity, do you think a trans woman is a real woman?
I don't really like the way those questions are formulated. You know, I don't know what that means. What do you mean a real woman?
Well, I'm asking you, in your mind, you know, it depends what you think a real woman is, but do you think a trans woman is a woman?
No.
Why not?
Because I think that women are capable, generally speaking, of having babies, and they have female genitalia, and they have an XX chromosome, and I think the biological markers are relevant. It doesn't necessarily mean that I don't think that people should be treated with respect and dignity if they happen not to fit easily into a gender category. That's a different issue.
Right.
But it's a matter of definition, and I actually think it's a foolish argument in some sense, because what do you mean by real?
Well, I mean, you've just clarified that, though. You don't think that a trans woman is a woman. And do you think that that is what is behind or explains your opposition to this idea of a law mandating you to use...
Yeah, sorry to interrupt, but like, it's literally arguing with misses. They actually force a worse narrative into general public when they're showing things like this on the news, when they're trying to portray themselves as the good people, but they're completely being killed with kindness and outsmarted on every corner. And even the way that, it's like with journalism here, like it's ridiculous. The way that they word things and the way that they use things, and it's like they'll set you up every way they can for you to trip at every question that they propose to you. Mm-hmm. It's just, it's complete foul play, to be honest.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, what was it? Don't be so open-minded that your brain starts to fall out.
Well, that's it. It's just, it really is. It's like, where do you draw the boundaries? It's like, how could, like...
I mean, to be fair, I would say this. If you're at work and someone wants to be referred to by their preferred pronouns as opposed to, like...
Well, you do it out of respect.
Their biological ones. Yeah, exactly.
As long as it's like Z, Hi, Hing, Hum... Yeah. Whatever. Like,
Z, Jim, J, Jem.
Oh, I don't even know what they are. They all sound like when you're about to sneeze.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. I have no idea.
So I said those pronouns out loud once and my furniture started floating. But yeah, so like I say, if you're at a workplace or something like that, fair enough, because you're there to do a job and not promote your personal and or political and or religious beliefs. So that's fair enough.
The good thing is with Jordan Peterson, you don't buy it into it. He's too smart and spots everything coming, and he gives them enough rope to hang herself. And as you see, like I'm sure she's not going to go well.
Yeah, exactly.
A preferred pronoun is because you don't actually believe that that's the truth, that a trans woman is a woman, and therefore you can't use that pronoun.
No, that's not my argument at all.
Really?
Yeah, really. My argument is that the government shouldn't compel voluntary speech.
No, but I know what your argument is, and
no,
you've
but
made
that's
it very
really
clearly.
But that's exactly it. There's
no motivation
There's
behind
no motivation behind it.
But you don't believe
I wouldn't have put
is a woman.
everything on my online in my life to take the stance I did unless I had thought that through very deeply. And I've thought it through very deeply. There aren't hidden motivations that have to do with some arbitrary prejudice against trans people.
Okay.
It's pure and simply this. There's never been a time in English common law history where the government compelled speech, and the Canadian government dared to do that. And that was unacceptable. And they masked it with this show of compassion for the oppressed, and I don't buy it.
Right, but you would, as I think you said, at an individual level, if somebody asked you to use a particular pronoun, you would do so.
Well, I have.
You have?
Yes.
Right, fine.
Yes.
Let's talk about feminism. Are you a feminist?
No, not as it's currently defined, certainly not.
No, well, in any other definition?
Well, I think that anybody who doesn't think that the competitive landscape should be opened up for equality of opportunity is not thinking. And so everyone's interests are better served if people have as equal access to opportunity to display their talents and to manifest their talents in the world as possible. So in that sense, certainly. But feminism now, and this is why it's so deeply unpopular, a very small minority of women in the UK identify as feminists. And the reason for that is it's primarily become an ideological weapon. And it's an ideology that I detest, actually, the ideology that it's associated with, collectivist ideology.
Right. I mean, OK, and that's your view about feminism. Aisha, are you a feminist?
Oh, absolutely. I'm a very proud feminist. And when I was a special advisor in government, I worked on women and equality issues, and I was very proud, actually, of a piece of legislation I got on the statute book with my former boss, Harriet Harman, the Equality Act, in 2010, which strengthened our anti-discrimination laws. And I fought very hard to get more women into public life, into the Labour Party. And I'm very, very proud of being a feminist, hence my pink dress.
Oh, well, all right. Obviously reverting to type then in the pink dress.
Absolutely, well...
You would like men to regain or reclaim their strength physically, mentally and morally. Is that broadly correct?
I would say morally, fundamentally, but I think the other things go along with that.
Right, and if that
But it isn't men precisely who I'm speaking to. It's people. I'm a clinical psychologist. I'm actually interested in individuals, and I'm interested in their fortification against tragedy. You know, every time I do an interview, the interview is always political. It's always political.
Well, the clue is in the title of this programme. We are the Daily Politics.
No, fair enough. No, look, fair enough. And I'm not casting aspersions at this programme, but the fundamental news that's important about what I'm doing isn't the political element. And the people who talk to me don't talk politically. They say they've watched my lectures.
But part of it is that I think for a lot of people the kind of personal does become the political.
Or the political becomes the personal.
Yeah, and I think in terms of the...
Yeah, but in this situation, a lot of people are wrong, because primarily what's happening is people are watching my lectures, and as a consequence, their lives are improving dramatically.
Oh, I'm sure they are. I'm sure people are have had a huge conversion after, and they're much happier once they've been.
It's not a conversion.
But what I would like to do is kind of almost... I think at the moment, the discussion about feminism is very divisive, and sometimes it can sort of be like, okay, men have to lose and women have to gain. Actually, everybody has a lot to gain by greater equality. Now, whether you get the equality of outcome that you want, I think only time will tell. But certainly, equality of opportunity is very important. And actually,
we can agree on that.
a lot of men would benefit from that. So I think a lot of men are having a lot of crises at the moment in terms of mental health, suicide issues, their own sense of identity, because I think some of the stereotypes put on men are quite limiting for them as well. I think they make men quite unhappy as well.
The devil's in the details with regards to equality, because I'm an advocate of equality of opportunity. But
and
I think
outcomes.
the idea outcomes, that's an appalling doctrine.
Why? All right. Well, hang on.
Because you have to produce an unbelievably potent bureaucracy to make the ever greater and ever finer distinctions that are necessary to enforce equality of outcome. How many group differences are you going to equalize across? Is it just gender and sex? How many genders?
No, so
gender and ethnicity? How many genders?
I think
how many ethnicities? How many races?
We'll let Aisha answer.
I think what people are trying to do with this, and certainly as somebody who has looked to sought to sort of do this myself, I think you set yourself ambitions for what you would like to see, and then you try and remove as many of the structural barriers and obstacles. So you try and create that fair crack of the whip and that equality of opportunity to see where you get to with the outcomes.
That's
now,
fine.
We are in very early stages. It's only 100 years since women got the vote in this country. We have had a long established patriarchal society and set up for a long time in the world, in this country. So I think we have a long way to go to see where it plays out. There is no country in the world where we really do have gender equality properly yet, in terms of real decision making and real
Some of the
power.
Scandinavian countries.
How do we not have gender equality? I've always been. I mean, fair enough, we're both men, so
If you, this isn't to cast asperity at anyone, but if you're on the left wing, we don't have any gender, racial, or any equality of the sort in their eyes. So they will never win, because there will never be an equal time.
Yeah.
But I will say quickly, just before I forget, as far as a debate goes, both debatees, from what is trying to be portrayed as the right wingers in Jordan Peterson, has been extremely fair and polite and understand all the points and actually being fair. And so is Aisha from the proposed left wing. She's just as fair. And once again, it's the BBC, which everyone in England knows what the BBC stands for, big bunch of, and then, so yeah, as it stands for that, it shows how they're trying to set up the narrative to hate the right wing. Yeah, it really is. It's how can they do that justly? And it's clear in our eyes. Like it was like the whole Brexit thing. The whole Brexit was trying to be portrayed as people who wanted to leave were racist, and look what ended up happening.
We ended up leaving, yeah.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, so Brexit has happened, and people try to make it look as if you're racist and you're not.
No,
exactly. I know plenty of people who are politically left wing who wanted to leave the EU.
Well, of course.
So yeah.
Maybe.
But they're still not quite there, and I think you've spoken a lot about this. There's still a way to go in Scandinavia. Things are not perfect in Scandinavia.
I haven't spoken about that specifically. I've spoken about.
You spoke about the right stuff yesterday. You talked about the Scandinavian.
Well, I've spoken about the fact that, see, one of the things that's happened in the analysis of the differences between men and women is that the social constructionist claim is that the differences are socially constructed, right? Is that it's a consequence of environment that men and women differ. But what the scientific literature indicates is that as cultures become more egalitarian, like they have in Scandinavia, the differences between men and women actually increase rather than decreasing, which is a direct repost to the social constructionist view. So they just deny all that. The biggest differences in the world in interest and temperament are between Scandinavian men and women. It's exactly the opposite of what everyone predicted.
Can I just pick up on one thing you said a little earlier in the interview, which you said it's the moral guidance that you are focused on. You think that is particularly important. How do you square that with the behaviour of perhaps arguably, you know, a prominent alpha male president of the United States, Donald Trump? When his behaviour, I mean, he is accused of having an affair with a porn star when his wife was pregnant. How does that fit with morally reclaiming?
Well, I would say that was rather clearly immoral.
Right.
Yeah,
but you would still,
not to be a target for emulation.
But you still would have voted for him over Hillary Clinton as an identity politics. I mean, it's just how
none of that was on the table, and I said I might have.
Okay. I see what she's trying to do here, and it's really, really bad. I
know. She's almost trying to say, you support Donald Trump over because of, and trying to use his morality and using him as a baseline. Yeah. But she's not considering anything to do with Hillary Clinton, i.e. arming terrorists, being backhanded, earning millions and millions of dollars with her husband. Funny that's not ever mentioned or in discussion.
Well, the thing that I've realised, and I know, don't get me wrong, for the people watching here, I did not vote for Donald Trump at all. I mean, I couldn't have voted for him anyway. But so, like, I don't support Donald Trump whatsoever. But you don't vote for you don't vote for the person. You vote for the policies,
or you vote for the lesser of the evils. Because let's be fair, who would you rather vote for right now, Biden or Trump?
Trump.
Exactly. Because Joe Biden's a bumbling mess.
Yeah, exactly. Just because Joe Biden is that much worse. Because I'll be honest with you, between with the 2016 election, I generally thought the election was basically, who do you want to have World War III with more, North Korea or Iran? You know, so that's basically how I viewed the whole Trump versus Clinton thing. Now, with Trump versus Biden, now don't get me wrong, I'm sure Biden, he's okay. But in terms of what he's done politically, he seems to be doing terribly, and he sniffs people.
Yeah.
That's just weird.
That says it all, doesn't it?
I mean, at least with people like Trump, you can define the type of stuff that he comes out with. He's a bit creepy and he's a bit rapey, shall we say. But Biden, like, sniffing people, what the hell is that?
And it's like even the fact of when he's talking. Like, we get it again.
Getting off topic,
but it's like, everyone knows.
Yeah, like we were saying, people, you don't vote for the person in terms of a moral sense, you vote for the person in terms of their policies.
Yeah.
At the end of the day. And what she's trying to do there by claiming that because he voted for him politically, he approves of him morally is just dishonest.
Voted for him on a whim. That's all.
But you also did say you started out feeling quite close to Hillary Clinton. Can I just come on the
very quickly, because we've got to move on.
In a way, I don't care what Trump does in terms of his private life, but what I don't have is him stopping or potentially stopping other women having agency over their reproductive rights and lots of men taking those decisions.
It's all about where the moral outrage lies and what's more morally outrageous in people's eyes. Is it his behaviour or the identity politics for you on the... Anyway, we'll have to discuss this another time.
Brilliant place to end it.
Yeah, that's literally how I'd have felt by the end of that as well.
Yeah. So, yeah, guys, what did you think, Shannon?
Honestly, it does just show that they need to have debates on open platforms that isn't set up by TV and isn't set up by politically motivated and identity and like motivated in all of these other stupid ways, because you don't always have to cast good and bad. Yeah. You don't need that contrast. That's theatrics from TV. Yeah. And it really is getting boring now with media and... Yeah, so to be fair, I think the actual title of this video is somewhat misknown because he didn't really talk that much about feminism. No. It was 50% transgenderism, like 25% feminism,
and 25% Donald Trump.
Well, yeah, that's what it said. It's like it's.
Yeah, so this one was a bit kind of mistitled in my opinion. But yeah, guys, that's all for this one. Thank you for tuning in, and until next time.